Planning Commission, Monday, August 2025, at 6:07 PM. Roll call, please.
Okay, Cronin is excused. Zagami,
Here.
Eason,
Yes.
Ernst,
Here.
Hoffman,
Present.
Jordan,
Here.
Lumber.
Here.
We have the ETZ committee. So again, Cronin is excused, Phelps is excused, Christensen,
Here.
Garrett,
Here.
Paul,
Here.
and Mumper.
Here.
Thank you. Item 2, public comment. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
It's just staff on Zoom.
So there's nobody in here for public comment? Item 3, written communication. We have one in here. Does everybody have a copy of it?
I do. I do. Yes.
If you want us to read it, or
It would be yours and the committee's or the commission's choice if you are comfortable with having it being provided and taking a moment to read it on your own.
I read it.
okay,
It'll get attached to the minutes.
Yes. In its entirety.
They're responsible for that.
No. I can ask them to go in the other room. Or if you guys want to just go in there.
all right, good. This is already got number 7, am I correct?
Yeah, that's the only written communications that we've received.
Item 4. Minute of July 14, 2025, Planning Commission meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item 5, minute of May 12, 2025, ETZ committee meeting.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item 6, unfinished business. This is deferred to September 8, 2025 meeting.
So at the last meeting, you guys had given them 30 days. We do not have updated information yet. Michael's still talking to them. So we're asking you to defer till the September meeting.
Yeah, if I remember right, we said if they don't meet that date, they can request for the. Item 7, public hearing. Proposed ordinance amendment provision within chapters 94 of municipal code affecting accessory structure, yard definition, and land use, classification and allowance. I open the public hearing. Presentation by staff.
All right, so there is a slightly new version of the ordinance, the draft ordinance that is in this packet to kind of go over, and we'll kind of just talk through it. I didn't not attach that. Didn't save. Just go. Let me go back to the other one. It doesn't have that. Do it for some reason.
The one that's off the, or off the.
Yeah, well, I'll just talk through the changes if you go back to the regular one. And we'll have to go up off of the, for whatever reason, Valerie, it didn't save that.
Yeah.
I can see, I checked it. I don't see it,
You're saying that
the revised one.
it's not in the folder?
Oh, wait a minute, it's there. Oh, sorry, Jamie, you can go back. So there's a copy of the draft ordinance. At the last meeting, we went through kind of the reasoning behind. It must have gotten, it's in between a couple, that's why it's. Two of them got mixed up on the. So starting on, the ordinance starts on page 39. Mark had actually reviewed it and there was a couple typos. So under section 1 and section 2, Mark Roffers had the wrong, just the tables were mislabeled. They were swapped out. So the first one basically is where we were adjusting the home occupation for permitted uses in the MF and MH zoning districts. So that's the allowable uses in rural open space and residential zoning districts table, not the non-residential and mixed use zoning districts table, which is on the next one. We are adjusting that table also, but that is to essentially allow for those more residential type uses in the commercial districts. Because we do have some existing single family homes that are still, that are zoned B2, B3. We even have one that's an LI. So this allows them, because they've always been using their homes as residential and it just has not turned commercial. So it does allow them to utilize their home for a residential type use. Like a daycare, a small daycare that you would have more in a residential area. So that was a change from the original one that was sent out. The other change that Mark found was on section 12, which is further on in there.
When you say Mark using Hull or
Mark Hull, yeah. So in section 12, there used to be 4 bullet points. The last 2 bullet points actually needed to get moved into section 13 because it was on the chart that had all the height. It was for the heights of things, and the chart prior to that does not have, that just has more of the floor areas and things like that. So those were kind of the changes that Mark had brought up. There's also, with Muni Code, when Muni Code put the zoning code out there, they did not follow our code, so I need to get that updated with them, and then do that with, this code change is we'll have to go back in there and put the code that we as staff use and that Mark developed. It allows us, it has more freedom than the other code. But what Muni Code did, what I found out was they actually manipulated it to follow the village code, and it gets a little dicey with the I's and double I's and things like that. So it gets a little confusing. And so if you go and look at the code out online, it's different than the one that we use and the one that we have. That's like a searchable that we use on staff. So I will be attempting to update that or see if Muni Code can do it. We'll probably have to do it in-house, but we can kind of go through this because I know the ETZ wasn't here at the last meeting. We did make a couple, the one change, but we can get to that when we get there. Section 3, let me go back and kind of go through this. So I don't know, how much do you want me to regurgitate what was in there? I kind of outlined it all with, I guess the biggest thing with this code change is that staff was attempting to make things a little bit easier on projects that residents and businesses were trying to do in the village. And we were running into kind of roadblocks. So we had received a lot of greenhouse requests in both the town and the village, and it was, we didn't really have some clear regulations on them, and they didn't meet the standards for the accessory buildings. We didn't want to limit them so that they couldn't have that and a detached garage. So we worked with Mark to create language that would allow for them, you know, kind of like we have, you can have a gazebo, you can have a shed, you can have a detached structure. This was allowed to be able to have this additional structure, a greenhouse. It gave us some guidelines to work with residents in regards to size, because we've had some pretty big ones, we've had little small ones, and just not a real clear way to how to regulate those. We also wanted to allow for some additional temporary outdoor sales. We're seeing people who have farm products, or they're doing, like, there's somebody out in the town that basically sells eggs. They have like a little stand, you know, there's these little stands that can pop up. So we worked with Mark to include standards for those that they didn't necessarily require permits. That and the little bus stops that happen out in some of the areas, those were really not, I mean, no one's really ever said anything, but it's helpful to have them in the code so that if somebody does ask questions, they are allowed. It's not just something that, you know, we just kind of deal with if somebody brings it up. Another thing was allowing the portable storage containers for longer term business use in limited situations with screening. We brought this to you guys before, a previous plan commission a few years ago, and we never really got an answer. It didn't go through. They're really not allowed in the commercial districts right now. We don't deal with them unless they become a really big problem, but we do have situations where, like in the case of Wendy's, when they first opened, they were very busy and they needed a portable unit for storing their excess like supplies. And they called and asked me and I'm like, well, right now it says I can only give you one for 30 days. And they wanted it for a few months just while they were getting things going. They didn't want it forever, but I didn't have a way to do that. So that's why the code was drafted to give us a little bit more leeway and freedom to issue a temporary use permit for that, because we would basically do the site plan and it would fall underneath those temporary portable storage container regulations. If you read the current language, it basically is only allowed for household goods, and the only permit we have is for somebody to use it if they're moving in their residential area. They can have it in their driveway for 30 days. I know we have them out in the industrial park, they're using them for things. Target has one behind. I mean, I don't want to be permitting them in the commercial areas. I just wanted parameters that they needed to meet so that they were, you know, not out in the middle, or like not like the one that was being used right out in front on Schofield Avenue to block. That's that kind of thing we don't want happening. But there are times that these businesses need to use them for staging things or construction. Or just temporarily for excess goods that they have, so. That's why that one was in there.
Where is that Jennifer in relation to Jim's comment?
Is that Bruce Gus's property?
Yeah, he was using it to block off after the fire, and we kind of just let him do that, and then when he got far enough along, we asked him to remove it, so he's removed it since then.
You just had so many people pulling in and out of there.
Yeah, he wanted it to keep people out of there.
He references page 44.9.1B.
Yeah, I'm struggling with it.
He was going with.
Where is that?
He's talking about that section. It's gonna be different. The sections are gonna be different on this one, the page numbers.
Where is it in the current packet then?
So,
It is there on that page.
yeah,
Section 11.
It is
Page
what, it's
8.
the piece that he's referring to, yes.
that would be on page 46, that 9 temporary portable storage container.
His comment is the issuing of a permit for it, the necessity of issuing a permit. But we'd only issue a permit if it was longer than or asking them to get one.
Well, I think it's a reasonable way to accommodate somebody that has a special exception and to give the staff the power to do that. To me, it's a reasonable request by Jen to give me some parameters or give me some flexibility. And I think that as a group here, we should be giving the staff the ability to address those gray and white, I mean, not black and white, gray exceptions without necessarily having this end up being open season or the Wild West as far as people adding containers. So it seems reasonable to me to have some oversight and where they don't have to come to us for a special permit.
Jen, just out of curiosity, how is a semi-trailer for storage dealt with compared to a container?
I don't know. We wouldn't necessarily know that they were storing something, I guess. I guess if it's out of place or something, like if all of a sudden it shows up and somebody's got it there.
I was just, just asking because, I mean, you see them.
Yeah. I don't know. We've never had that situation.
Yeah, there is no difference, it's,
It's not.
yeah, there really isn't. And the reality,
They're both as portable virtually as each other,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is that businesses have excess equipment sometimes. I mean, it lots of supply.
correct.
If you looked at the back row of the trailers that we have on a lot, you could define several of those units that probably haven't moved in 6 months, and But they're there for those times of the year when we actually need the additional equipment. They're not being used just to store materials. So it'd be hard for them to define that or enforce that differently than somebody just putting a container out in a retail environment, so to
I
speak.
think it's actually discussed, like trailer parking and that kind of stuff, so if it was, I mean, it falls under other sections of the code, if it's in like an industrial park or a commercial parking lot and it's parked, I don't think anyone's gonna have like a big issue with it as
So,
part of their,
so like, say the tire store, or even, we have some at our shop as well, but they're behind their fence. They're in a fenced in area and we use them for.
are you talking a pod?
Yeah.
We
Or
don't
some,
care about that. I mean, the things behind the fence, we can't really see. Like I said, there's really no regulations for them right now. So we struggle with it because we do have occasionally, like I said, Wendy's where they called and they just wanted it for a limited amount of time. So, I mean, we can rework this more. Like, we don't want to have to go and give permits for all this stuff either, but, I don't know the best way to build the parameters in. I mean, we would only approach them if there was a problem with it, that they were parking on a sidewalk or they were infringing a neighboring property owner or something like that, or they set it right on somebody's property line. I mean, that's the only time we're gonna have to come to the ordinance to enforce it and say, you needed a permit.
or in like Bruce's case where it's right on.
Where,
Scope.
yeah, where it's, it's not being used, but it's appropriately. I mean, we understand that these businesses need these occasionally, but trying to figure out the best parameters so that they're not bothering, the traffic flow of some of the commercial areas or the neighbors next door.
There's no fee in the fee schedule associated if they would request longer than 30 days. It's just them requesting and us being knowledgeable about it.
So is this request being, in more of a service or a retail area?
That's where we've been getting them. It's for real limited term, like they want it for a few months. That's the only request I've had lately for them.
So are you, and if they're in an industrial park, is there a problem with them?
They've just been, there's probably different regulations where they they're considered. We've just never been doing anything with them in the industrial park.
But it's also not a permitted use.
Right, it isn't.
That's the problem.
Yeah, that is the problem. That's
It's
why
not
we
a
brought it
permitted
to you
use.
guys before.
It's not a permitted use.
Having the portable storage containers. So in an effort to make them, compliant be via usage. Once they're allowed, then but if an entity wanted us to, we would have to go enforce every single storage container out there because it's not an allowed use.
Are you saying even like, say that Miller, or I can't think of the name of that tire store for County Concrete, Southside, they've got a ton of them back there.
Yeah, of course it.
That's where they store a lot of their tires to keep them out of UV, or we do the same thing at our shop, but it's behind a fenced area. You're saying those are not compliant right now?
There's not a line item in the use table in the code for them. That's the problem that
They're
we
not-
run into.
Yeah, they're not considered they're considered a temporary structure, so they're not listed as like
As
an
an accessory
accessory
structure.
structure that we could like somebody could give us a site plan and permit on the property. It doesn't say that they can use them for storage in the industrial park as part of it.
Mark or Randy, you guys see them probably a lot in the country,
There's some, yeah.
farms or wherever that they've got they want to store stuff in a waterproof area or out of the sun or something. I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
I mean, and some are upkept, some are not.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
like Roman and I need to talk to him a little bit more about that one, because I really don't, I mean, in the commercial areas, I could see giving it a limited, well, but I know Target even has it back
They've been there for
behind there and
years.
they've
Yeah,
been there
they've
for
been a long
years.
time.
So I don't know if this even is gonna really handle what we need it for right now.
I don't think they move those things.
Has anyone ever
Just
complained
resell
about
them.
this, other than this one on Schofield Avenue?
Have they? No.
Not in commercial. There might be some in residential, but not in.
We get calls in the residential, so that's why that went in there when we first did the code.
Yeah, cause I think,
Because there was like one house where they moved in and the thing just never went away. So they are limited that way so that somebody doesn't just use it for extra storage in their house because. But we would like to have the ability to give it for longer. So say if somebody does have a fire, you know, there are unique circumstances where you could see that they could have it a little bit longer, or you'd want them to have it longer than just 30 days to move in, that kind of thing.
Yeah, if it's a fire damage situation, I've got one up on Raybell that I still don't think the fire was last January or February, and I don't think they're back in the house yet. So just because of insurance or whatever is holding it up, it's months before they can get back into houses from fire damage. So.
You can't eliminate it. There's no way you can. Still, you gotta have.
This evening, I don't think it's, you could still try to rework it a little bit more with Mark, but at least putting this into place this evening makes the allowance so people aren't in non-compliance.
That was the intent, was to give an avenue for compliance. So,
Is there a limit on how many they can have?
For residential,
Well, I guess in any situation.
no,
what are we really pinning down right here? Are we saying by allowing this right now, are we saying that it's just strictly for residential, or am I seeing permitted on the property, on the property for up to 30 days associated with each change of occupancy? Commercial products that are not hazardous, portable storage designed to use primarily on temporary storage of household goods, commercial products. So what are we doing if we okay this tonight to a commercial property that's already currently using them?
It would be permitted, where now it would not, there isn't language on it, but it would be permitted if approved.
Everybody who's got it longer than 30 days is a violation then.
That's kind of what I'm trying to
I mean,
get at.
it's like you're gonna say, okay, it's not legal to do it, but now it's legal to do it, but only for 30 days, so you're immediately in violation of the law anyway. Oh, right?
it wouldn't be retroactive. 30-day clock would start tomorrow.
Okay, so by the next meeting, everybody's gonna be in violation.
To be specific.
Yeah, right? I mean,
So Roland,
There's some kind of a
then you'd be
factor,
pretty
though.
busy, like Jim is saying, is you'd be running around, he's gonna go cite everybody in town that's got one.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're gonna have to go comply with that and tell somebody to move them. And then it's gonna be a lot of really crabby people.
Do we care if somebody is commercial has, it doesn't, I mean, I don't, that's why I asked that question.
I
Only had
don't,
one violation and nobody's complaining, so
no.
can we just make it an allowable use for commercial? And now for residential, I get it, you don't want your neighbor to have that pot in his, or that thing in his front yard for 6 months, right?
For residential, previously the code was 30 days. So there's no change to the residential portion of the temporary storage container.
Okay.
So
And
it's
should
just,
they ask for extension on 30 days?
It
is still-
doesn't give it, but we need to make it say that. That's where that B, I think some of the wording of B can be kept in there for
Could we,
Residential.
residential.
Mark, is there language in there about a hardship you know, like a fire, or like Joe brought up, you know, that there's a industrial business that gets a lot of product in at one time, and then in 3 or 4 months, it's all gone.
Well, that's what it's,
So it
that's
doesn't
what
matter
that's
whether
what
it's,
B says for commercial or industrial. It allows for them to give me and say that, I
Right.
only need this for 6
whether
months
it's
because I
industrial or
have
for residential.
this going on. Well, right now that only says for non-residential land uses. So we need to rework this,
Aren't we really sidestepping what's the temporary aspect here?
right?
I mean, I don't think right, that's part of what we're wrestling with is what makes it temporary? And is temporary really different between residential and commercial? Isn't that what we're kind of talking about here?
I think that's why it didn't go through the last time, is
That-
because they wanted them to be like allowed.
Yeah, maybe,
Commercial.
maybe they do need to
Commercial.
be addressed differently. But also, it sounds to me like in the commercial, you're not really talking about a temporary storage use anymore either. And so maybe that's another whole other,
I agree.
Direction.
I agree with you completely, yeah, because I don't think commercial is using it.
because if
temporary.
commercial is really using them as an
I mean, there's a few
accessory storage
situations, but.
building or whatever container. But their intent is it's gonna be there as long as they're still operating. Then I don't think we really should be wrestling with that situation in the same way you're talking about in the residential, right? I mean, that's two very different things, I think.
Mhm. I think for commercial, we should just allow them.
I think that's kind of why we avoided it last time. Joe, do you remember?
Yeah, I think that's why you guys did too, but we
Yeah.
can't do that.
You
It-
can't
we
allow
have
them
to
for
have-
commercial and not for residential.
Well, you can allow them that way, but there was no wording about it whatsoever. And in a zoning code, if it's not talked about, it's not allowed.
Gotcha. Okay, so is there anybody
I have to look.
Is there anybody here that is against, for any reason, the commercial being allowed to have?
I think we need to address where commercially, like if it's a retail, like like a A&W or Wendy's or something like that. If they want to keep it there, I don't think we want to have them keep it there all year, right? I think so, but gyms, maybe in a retail area.
What about tucked in behind a Target?
Well,
I
didn't
was just gonna
Target,
say, yeah.
didn't Target put out a bunch, like around Christmas time where the Tesla, charging stations are?
It was during the remodel.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, they had them
Okay.
for the
So
remodel.
they, all their gondolias or whatever, all that stuff that comes in for the remodel, that all ships in those containers.
Gotcha.
And the contractors pull out of those containers. Sometimes that can take up to 3-4 months for
Right.
remodeling projects, but that's kind of difficult too. Now, if they would have left them there, now you got a gripe, right? But they're reconstructing or rebuilding their store and sticking money into it.
Could you go at it the opposite way and say they're allowed unless there's a complaint filed, and in which case it will be sent to committee to address it?
There's one. There's one person right here that's.
Yeah, I suppose.
I don't think so.
You're right.
You guys wanna take those
That's
complaints?
temporary
by all
insanity,
means.
sorry.
40 by tomorrow.
Good brain fart there.
I think if it is for construction, we can authorize them to use it for a period of that construction, whatever it is in their construction permit. Do they say how long is that construction gonna be in the permit?
Well, they typically, I mean,
It's gonna
in
run
the case
either
they asked or.
a year
Yeah.
with the construction permit or 2 years with the construction permit,
I
depending
think
on what it is.
what or going after was like the one, for instance, like Target, they're under remodeling, so they got all kinds of product in there. They got 15 of these things sitting out in their parking lot.
Yeah.
Is that something they can come in for a request for or something or
Well,
something?
that's what that would allow me to give them a permit, a
And we
temporary
give 'em-
use permit for whatever period of time.
We give them extension to the end of their construction project.
Right, and that's how we would typically do it.
But-
It'd say they have to be removed before.
But ultimately, aren't we already, I mean, they already took them out. We know they took them out as soon as they were empty, right? I mean, Roman, if they were there right now from a year and a half ago, you'd be over there, I'm sure. right? Saying, hey, what the hell you got going on in the parking lot here? You got-
By now,
Disincentive. Who wants to
probably,
pay
yeah.
for something you don't use.
Well,
Right.
I don't think even Target wants to have that stuff sitting in their
no,
parking.
no, I know, because they're wasting parking spots as well.
Exactly, yeah.
I know it's a tough one, because you don't,
I mean, I just think of all the people that I see, Matt, right? I mean, they're all over. I mean, they're all over.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've got.
they've got their purpose, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. You know, and you've got containers. You also have, you know, just recently we had a U-Haul come in here and ask for the permit to use those
Boxes.
box trucks. I mean, I can tell you there's a fair amount of box truck bodies sitting on the ground too for storage reasons. I mean, like you said before, it's dry storage.
Yeah.
And it's keeping those things that you don't use all the time out there,
Out of the weather,
but you need them.
out of the elements.
So are they allowed in egg or not? Egg zoning?
Like, so, I don't know. But I
Storing
don't think we
hay,
have any right,
You know,
Some people store hay in them.
yeah, the hay, firewood. I mean,
It's a cheap
multiple
garage.
things.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, $5,000 for a 40-foot unit, you know, or whatever they are.
Is that what they're up to already? You'd be able to get one for like $1,500.
Not anymore. Short ones maybe.
Yeah, we were paying about 5 to 7 for the ones with the 4 doors.
Okay.
Which is nice, because you can access all kinds of different spots, and otherwise, if you're a 40, you gotta come into end, and you know you need something all the way to the other end of it. Which is nice if you got multiple doors in them, so.
Yeah.
I mean, we use them in ours, but we got them behind a fenced-in area, and they work out really well. Keep stuff out of the weather.
Hey, Jennifer, are you done with your presentation?
well, we didn't go through all of it.
Yeah, that was just one.
So there is also the changes that were made to the, go back to the house.
Yep.
Which section is
Sure.
that, number 40, number 3? Is that, I read
40,
this.
number 3 is detached accessory structures, section 6.
So
Did
that,
the 60 miles an hour is that just for the housing too in general?
so
No,
no,
it's
that,
90
that's
for the
because
housing.
of the greenhouses.
Yeah, so, to the question, it's we adopted as a municipality, the UDC for accessory structures. So if we don't give the accessory structures some lessened rules or say that a portion of the rules don't apply to that, then we have to design it to the 90-pound wind load or 90 mile per hour wind load or 20 pounds per square foot. So the intent of the reduced wind load is so that it doesn't have to be extremely over-engineered because it's just a 12 by 12 greenhouse in the backyard. Or a, 20-foot long hoop structure for a greenhouse. So that was the intent. 60 miles per hour was just a reduced arbitrary number. So
Well, it can be arbitrary, but the reality is there's all kinds of tie downs that you can use at our rate.
absolutely, I've got a whole bunch of stuff here. So
So I don't see that, you can say it's an arbitrary amount, but the reality is that it can be enforced
you absolutely can be.
quite easily with engineering that.
Most of the instruction manuals for any of the kit products require either concrete slab construction with certain size anchor bolts or screw placements in a wooden structure, or depending on the size of the structure, 2 to 3 kits of 30-inch ground anchors.
I'm gonna say, yeah.
So, we've dealt with this from a snow load standpoint, like on the, Arrow is a manufacturer that makes the really short, kind of 5-6 foot tall metal sheds with a really flat roof. Those roofs are only have a 20-pound snow load to them. So they're pretty easy to find now, the roof reinforcement kit, but pre-COVID, 2016, 2017, when we really started seeing these a lot, they were extremely difficult for people to find. So, but they're out there, you know, so when they want to do one of these aero sheds, we require them to install that roof support bracket so that it meets the snow load requirement.
And the wind load, I don't disagree. I mean, what's to prevent somebody from having one of these in their backyard? And say we have a storm that comes through and it wipes out the neighbor's side of their house.
I've seen straight line winds move an entire garage off a foundation.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, it happens. You know, Sanders Collision, they had that shed that was back there, that got picked up and put in the trailer park. So,
And that had a roof on it.
yeah.
I had my shore stations with it like a month ago without the canopies on them. They picked them literally up, tore one of the dock sections out, two of them, flipped them upside down with that.
Yeah, so I
storm that we
mean,
had.
wind load is not really something that really should be.
So anchoring, I don't think that's a bad,
No, we're not having people tie these down with ratchet straps.
no.
Okay. There's appropriate methods in almost all of the manuals for that. So, but with, for example, the greenhouse, it is a 56 mile per hour wind rating on the greenhouse. So that's just one of the polycarbonate kit greenhouses from the internet that sometimes you get English instructions and sometimes you don't. So I had to hunt a little to find one of the English
So
instructions.
one of those at 56, is that gonna even be compliant to your 60?
It would be, and that's thanks to the question, I was able to find this afternoon that the 56 mile per hour one would not meet our code if we adjusted it to 60 miles an hour.
And
But it also doesn't meet the EDC either.
But are there units available that meet the 60?
I would have to do some more hunting for it.
I think I'm assuming, I'm assuming this is just referencing that as long as they're available, we're not doing it just to get them out of like, that we don't want them.
Yeah, no, this is,
Right.
over the last 9 years, there's a lot of people that have wanted to do greenhouses, and frankly, the only answer in the code is no. You could do it on some larger residential properties, but in a single family neighborhood, you know, SFS and FSL, it wasn't permitted because it didn't meet the performance standards of the accessory structures, it needing to be, you know, specific construction with siding, you know, metal or asphalt shingles. So it's clear. It doesn't meet the performance standards.
Sure.
So
So you're opening it up for that, but what we're getting, or I'm getting at is, as long as that thing can perform and we can actually find one that will do that. If there's none available, then we're changing the code for no reason. Right?
or we adjust the verbiage in the code that we have.
Yeah, to go down to 50 or something,
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
Yeah, but I would have to see if there's an actual product line that is a higher wind load product.
Most commercial greenhouses are rated for 85 miles an hour wind. So there are out there.
What about like the residential glass panel?
Yeah, so this one that I have here is a polycarbonate, so it's a clear, looks like glass, aluminum construction. And so you basically put this kit together.
And that was the 56 mile an hour one?
56 mile an hour, yeah.
Cause I don't know how many residential people are gonna pay up to get commercial grade.
Not many.
Yeah, that's where I was heading.
So, I mean, there's several, hoop greenhouses that, I'd have to look on the wind rating on Because most of the wind rating for commercial kit is gonna be a certain size tube diameter on the steel. So I'd have to look at some of the smaller ones and say, okay, you know, if there's definitely a cutoff, or if all box tube, round tube, greenhouses meet that 85, mile per hour wind load.
I thought one of the individuals that wanted to do the greenhouse though also there's grant funding out there for people
Correct.
to do that. And
Yep.
I would assume they have regulations too, because if they're getting a grant, they want to make sure whatever's being built
Yes,
is,
compliant.
yes.
The last one that was denied was 4 doors down from Kelly Club, on one of the older houses on the north side of Ross Avenue, that they had gotten grant funding from the USDA to put up a greenhouse. So out on Northwestern, there was one, we did similar situation where they had a USDA grant to get the greenhouse. That property was large enough though for them to get it and use it in that district. So
Was there certain wind loads on that, Roman, that they had to meet that you remember?
not that was probably 2 years ago, the one out on Northwestern on Hampton Avenue. And I didn't do a lot of
How about this one?
this one, well, it wasn't permitted at all, so
Cause they couldn't.
no. And they had started it without any
they
request for a permit. They
they
just
didn't know
started
better.
putting it up.
So is that something you could follow? I mean, is that something if we held off on that and maybe this other item on that we could get some more information by next meeting?
Yeah, of course.
Next week. Or next meeting.
Next meeting. Okay. Right.
Jennifer, anything else?
Do you want to address number 5 on page 1? Questions?
Yeah, so where is that Roman that he's talking about?
That's gonna be the same section 6.
So it's number 5 underneath that same performance standard.
Yeah. So last sentence, or second to last sentence, all exterior siding shall extend to the top of the foundation. If the top of the foundation is below grade, the siding shall extend to the ground. The way the UDC reads is, it shall extend, the siding needs to cover the wood and the sheathing. So it's dependent on how they've constructed the foundation, the bottom plates, and the wall sheathing. So sometimes the wall sheathing may extend down past the foundation, but that sheathing needs to be covered with the siding. So it's handled on a specific design basis personally.
So Roman, when you have that, you're just basically making sure you're covering your sill plate, right? And
Yeah,
you're
the
covering-
sheathing's gotta come down all the way. So
Yeah.
I had a garage addition this morning where we ran their siding within an inch and a half of grade, or I shouldn't say siding, but sheathing within an inch and a half of grade. So in order for them to be within 6 inches of grade, they either have to replace that with pressure treated plywood or OSB, or apply a preservative to it, or ice and water, do some sort of protection
And
layer
that's what
against it.
my question was. Let's just say they take a foundation, they're down past that, now they go green treated on the exterior, half-inch green treated, and they're gonna put siding on. They're fine as long as that siding is covering, even if they're showing green treated, they're still fine because they're down past the plate, right? You're
Yeah,
saying-
so if that's subgrade, if that wall is subgrade, then it's gotta be pressure treated, and then you're going to cover the sheeting because the sheeting by itself is not, sunlight and weather resistant over a period of time. Right.
Treated.
Pre-treated.
Yeah, let's just say you use, Joe, you guys have that, you've got that 6 inch, you can get a 6 inch or 8 inch poly board now that
Yeah.
I've been using on the bottom.
Yep.
Before you start smart siding, and it
Yep.
keeps the distance. Now that board can be done within 6 inches of that, correct? Because it's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Technically, the board typically has a 1 inch separation from concrete or asphalt, but it's not a separation from grade. So it's the hard surfaces where it's measured from. So. I don't, it wasn't adjusted language. So, because it's not in blue. So this verbiage that's currently here in black has been in the zoning code since I've been here. So it was essentially to just exempt greenhouses from having to meet this section of the code.
And ultimately, is he trying to clarify or clear this up so when somebody's reading the section of the code that they know that they have to be?
I'm not sure what the intent is. I just know that when I'm on site enforcing the UDC, I'm assessing the situation based on the
And most
situation.
builders know that.
Right. The reality is that there's any number of materials that you can call siding.
Mhm.
And that can in fact be in ground contact. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's up to you, the builder, the homeowner to recognize what is appropriate at ground contact.
That's why this code requires the installation guidelines on site, so we can assess the product if it's one we've never seen before.
So on page 35, the two items in red were from our discussion last month. We are now increasing the maximum accessory building height in the single family large, single family small, 2F, MF districts from the 15 feet to the 20 feet in the chart. And then after we were talking about this as staff and with Mark, Raffers were removing the whole column and all the regulations associated with maximum number of floors for accessory buildings. Because as we were talking about it, especially when you get into the next topic on the agenda and things that we're starting to see happen in other communities or things that we know are going to happen here someday, with people wanting to do things, you know, put secondary apartments up in their garages. So the way the code currently stood, you could only have they couldn't have a second floor on the garage. So we kind of talked through that. So trying to make the code a little bit, work with some of these things that are probably going to come down the pipe in regard to housing.
We're trying to
affordable
remove
housing.
barriers.
So Roman, that's basically, attic trusses or.
Yeah, so for example, if you wanted to put a pool table room above your garage.
Yeah.
That's a floor.
Yeah.
Right, and so the code doesn't allow for that unless you get into the larger zoning districts. And so we wanted to expand that flexibility.
Especially if you're going up to 20 feet now,
Right,
And
and that, well, that's the thing, right? So if, when we increase our footprint, what do we have to do with our roof structure?
higher,
Right,
Yeah.
because we've got a minimum threshold
the pitch.
of pitch that we have to meet.
Yeah.
So therefore, we've got to go higher with the roof system.
Peak of the roof, yep.
Yep.
And
So-
especially if you want to match it to the house and there might be attic trusses above a house garage,
Right,
right? So if you're gonna do an out garage and you want to match and make it look aesthetically appealing, you're gonna have that attic truss. Or in the case where it wasn't allowed, you have to waste all that space.
it's all wasted space.
Always.
So I mean, why not spend there's definitely some out there in the community, just a wider community, where they have put that usable space up there. Cause they're not making any more dirt.
Yeah.
So we've gotta make ways in the code to allow for more flexibility with the usage of the space. So that's really the intent here, is to give those those flexibilities.
Yep.
Yeah, so it makes sense to me that, just pay attention to the overall height and let it be what it'll be inside.
Right. You know, ultimately, you know, the construction code's gonna handle how it's constructed internally.
Right.
We don't need to say, oh, it's X amount of floors, you can't do that. It's inside the building, so what difference does it make?
When you said inside the building, so you could go up with this addition to the structure. But you couldn't put a porch going out a second story door.
Well, it depends on what we're doing with the second floor, and if it's an accessory structure, or if we're talking a house. All right, so is it a dwelling unit, or an accessory structure, or an accessory dwelling? unit? Okay, so the code definitely didn't allow for an ADU for it to be more than a single story. Right, so if you wanted a second story in an ADU, even if it's a loft over 300 square feet, then it becomes a floor area. Right, so then you have to look, okay, how do we maximize that space? In the case of a second story addition onto a dwelling unit, they're gonna need a second means of egress. So slightly different.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, but we did have somebody a couple years ago who actually illegally constructed a 2-story yard shed in their backyard. It was only like 12 by 12 or so, 12 by 14, but they had a wood shop on the lower level, and then they stored stuff up on the second floor. And it was down kind of behind the house in the backyard, and it was pretty creative. It was kind of well built, but it exceeded that floor maximum. So it was an illegal structure, even though they're just trying to use up better usage of their space.
But you're saying now it would be legal.
As long as we're not exceeding our 20-foot cap.
That seems like a good change to me.
Yep.
And then the last two changes, we have it better, addressing unusual situations like where a lot may have 2 street side yards and what setbacks should be applied to which ones. We do have some situations where we've got a lot that would have like 3 street yard setbacks, and which ones, where those setbacks apply, so. And then it also, the picture that's in there, better illustrates the different yards. We ran into some questions in regards to fencing. So that illustration is being cleaned up.
If further discussion is wanted on the storage containers and the greenhouses, is it better to bring it back in total next month or to approve minus those? It's just that it carries through several pieces, and I don't know if it's more confusing to approve minus those items.
I was just gonna pull out originally when we were talking about the pods, I was just gonna remove that section 11 where it was talking about the pods. So I would remove that and have us like relook at that one. I don't know how you want to handle the greenhouse accessory building one.
Well, it's tied in pretty heavy with the accessory structures, section 6, so. Which we, tied to other things in this discussion too, so.
Is section 6 gonna hold anybody up that you're working with?
I was gonna say, there's no emergent, there's no real rush on, right? I mean,
Do you see anything that would hold anybody back, or?
No, not the home occupation, but home, the uses, that's something that we'd like to send through. I think,
Does Mark has any idea with the greenhouse? They can rewrite it or help out?
Well, I'm guessing the 60 came from standards that. Cause he designed.
That was language that he had placed in there,
So
so.
I'm guessing that's ones that he uses in other communities. Cause he had just worked on a greenhouse one, in one of the other communities that he worked.
Here's section 7 is a section that has some urgency to it.
And section 17, maintenance and repair of a non-conforming use. I think that was where we had looked at, right, Jen? That was
Yeah.
non-conforming uses.
Well, and you need it for the garages.
Yep.
Yeah, the other one, that you do have contractors that are looking for that garage option, right? The
The
third,
house,
the third door.
But if we just approved and hold off on section 6 and section 11, wouldn't that be all right? Or that's what I was asking, are you waiting on 6 or 11 for somebody that's needing something?
11, no. 6, give me a second.
I guess unless you guys are okay with it, I was just making sure that.
I mean, the greenhouse season's pretty close to over. Just, it's a common sense.
Somebody's asking us.
Just a common sense comment. Right?
I just wanted to make.
Unless they really wanna
Approving
try and
something
extend the
that's
growing
not
season.
Any viability of it.
No, no, I agree with you on that, but yeah, I think we could defer on the greenhouses, because I don't think, I mean, that's a January, February, March, April.
and are we just concerned with the, what, we need to drop it down to 50? Is that what?
I think the concern
Just
is
that
more like,
number?
if nobody can get a greenhouse that matches our requirements, then it's the same thing as a ban, was the
Correct.
concern, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, I think most of section 6 itself specifically is the verbiage on the greenhouses that doesn't address our the square footage adjustment for that.
There's
So-
just 2 references to greenhouses in 18 and 4, and I just want to make sure if we did approve -6 and 11, that doesn't mess the references up in 18 and 4.
18 is creating the use itself. Not mistaken. Yeah, that's the definition of the greenhouse itself. So creating the use, I don't think it's an issue.
You know, the definitions. I agree. I think if you went ahead with the definitions of it first, that'd be fine.
And I think 4 was
It was
to-
already there.
to create the use for greenhouses in commercial districts.
Okay.
So I think it's just 6 and 11. What was that? Yeah, 6 and 11.
So. I'm ready to make motions.
Still in public hearing?
I can't do that? Oh, we got open hearing.
Right.
Sorry, thank you, Shane.
Yep.
He needs to hear ruler.
So are you finished?
I'm done. If someone has any
Are you
questions.
finished?
I'm good.
Okay. Take a public comment. There's no public here. Anybody on Zoom?
One person on Zoom.
Shane, before we go on, do you need to read this? Or do we need to enter this into the public record?
I will do that.
I just
As a
wanted,
public comment.
yes, for the
This is
public,
part of a public comment, so I'm gonna ask him to include it part of the minute.
okay, because he specifically asked in here.
Correct. Right. Could you include, Mr. Intentional, letter part of the minute of the meeting?
Yes.
So there is no public comment. I will close the public hearing. Hearing is closed. Any recommendation from staff?
So I guess we would recommend its approval minus, taking out section 6 and section 11 at this time and rework those two sections. Otherwise, we would, recommend the rest of it go through.
Okay, thank you. Recommendation from staff is done. Discussion and action by the planning commission. Any other discussion? If there is no other discussion, I'll accept the motion from planning commission.
I'll make a motion to approve the draft ordinance, subtracting items 6 and 11 until we can get some further information and discussion, eventually at the next meeting.
Second.
Second,
That was it.
Dave?
Oh, David.
okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
ETZ. Discussion and action by ETZ committee.
I'll move same motion.
Second.
Discussion,
Yes, I was wondering if we could include the ag zoning into this, so we could take care of it right there, right away too?
For the ponds, you mean?
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
storage containers?
I think they fall under the residential, but we'll check on that.
All right,
Yeah. It may, yeah, we'll look at that.
all right,
yep.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Okay, item 8. Synergy 2025 Regional Housing Study. Jennifer?
So there is a link at the bottom of, so if you go to page 37, I just have a little brief write-up about the synergy, the regional economic development. Their recent report that they worked with the RPC with for the 5-county region. So there's a lot of data in there. And I did pull out the section where they have come up with their housing priorities. So you're hearing a lot about affordable housing in the news. You're gonna probably hear more and more about it. But these are the 3 priorities that they are going to be trying to work with communities and also approach the state for funding, also maybe some businesses to create kind of a pot of money that can assist with meeting these housing priorities. So the first one is basically entry-level owner-occupied housing for retaining workers long-term. The housing price range is about $200,000 to $299,999. Right now, I don't even think that the Green Tree ones, right, Roman, they don't even fall into that category.
We're just a shade above that dollar figure.
So those are usually what? Are they like 1,100 square feet?
Yeah, the small ones are 13.
So essentially they're trying to, this is basically, what did they say, Jamie? 30% of income, of people's income is what they should be paying towards their housing needs. So getting more people into the housing and less into the renting gets people into the community long-term, they stay here. So they changed their priority from this, the second highest priority with the apartments was ones that they had first looked at, but they decided to do the entry-level owner-occupied housing just because they want to get people into the area and remain and grow their families here and that. So the document does have a few if you go to the document, page 46 of the document has some low effort housing solutions that potentially this commission can look at. They talk a lot about zoning affecting housing and the types of housing, and you'll hear that out there. We've done a lot over the course of the last few years to kind of address that. Even prior to this becoming that, we've changed our minimum house sizes. We've dropped our minimum lot sizes down quite a bit. Currently, that's still not popular, but we only have a certain amount of land, so we may need to look at talking about the ADUs right now. They're only allowed by conditional use. I don't know if they're needed to be that way. If, you know, communities are, some of the bigger communities like Madison and Milwaukee are already making changes to their zoning code. So there'll be different ideas that you'll hear out in the news, or you might see looking at this, that we can start having discussions about, and maybe looking at things that some communities are doing is allowing two-family in single-family neighborhoods. That could be done via conditional use permit. It could be done with having higher aesthetics, or, you know, on a corner lot, you can't tell the difference. I mean, Scott Tatro lives in one of our older areas. If you go through back between the two schools, between the high school and the junior high, there's a number of corner lots that have those type of duplexes where you would think it's a single family home.
Yeah, it's an L-shaped duplex.
Cause it's, yeah. So there's ways to.
It's really
to-
creative, but
To do these. You're seeing some communities, I can't remember if it was Madison or Milwaukee, I think it was Madison, where they have some of these larger lots where they're allowing some kind of innovative ways to get a second home site on them. We do have some areas in the village where we've got some really large lots, including some right across here, where just the way they've developed, I don't know if we want to go to the whole flag lot aspect of things, but there are some communities that are allowing for that. But if you get a chance, take a look at it. We'll be talking about housing when we start working on the second volume of the comprehensive plan next year. So there's a housing element in there. So we'll have to kind of.
They also
that.
I think they also discussed in their, Michael, I don't know if you caught that, but like sidewalks and, they talked about trying to, you know, keep them on one side to keep some costs down as well in there. But that would be, you know, I'm assuming that's gonna be in this lower.
Yeah.
And then you talked about some of the aesthetics too, like requirements of brick or stone or.
Yeah, which we don't require that on
Yeah.
residential areas
Yeah.
anyway, but there are some communities, I guess, that would, they have higher standards in certain neighborhoods and things like that.
Yeah, and I believe, just trying to push it through for developers to, you know, or if there's somebody's got a track of these homes going in or something. To try to keep
Yeah, there are some
keep the costs
communities
down
that'll
or something.
do, like I've seen where they've got like set homes, like, well, and these guys have tried to do that with the builders that we have now, because they usually have their like set home packages, but the problem is they keep changing them. So it's like they'll approve them and then something will change because of the site, but there are some communities that are kind of master planning subdivisions that way, where it's like they'll pre-approve all the home styles. And they're just kind of then setting them on the lot. When we did our review with RPC, like a lot of our, I know we don't hear about that a lot. You'll hear people that complain that our processes are kind of long, but from a standpoint of getting like a preliminary plat into a final plat, we can do it pretty fast. I mean, within a couple of months, it's a lot of, the state is now holding it up. Like you guys saw the replat for Green Tree in March, and they finally got in to see the state in mid-July to get that replat reapproved. So they've got low staff, so they're struggling to get those in. and get them approved. So luckily that was already a development that was going, so it didn't hold up on our end, but we may see that with the next couple that are coming in, is that they can't get into the state to get them reviewed. Because for our standpoint, we can typically, you know, if they have all their stuff together and have everything for Michael, they can do preliminary plat to final plat in, you know, between 2 meetings.
Out of the builders that are in our area, have we sat down with them to ask them, what are the top 5 things you could do to drive down costs to make your housing more affordable?
We haven't sat down in a while. The last time was when we did the housing element. Like we did that.
My first thing when I read I mean, I went through and looked at all this and my first thought was, you know who I'd love to hear from? The people that are building homes. Cause they're gonna tell you very quickly, I'll bet what,
Yeah,
you know,
and
if you did these
she's-
5 things, I could drive my costs down by 10% or I
And
don't know, you
she's,
know.
they're working on that as part of this process to kind of meet with them.
Utilities, that's,
And that was my second thought, is internal staff probably has the second best ideas.
that's gonna be their, you know, outside of building materials and the cost of land. The cost of utilities to put in, Michael knows off the top of his head what it is per linear foot, but it's a very large portion of it. There's communities out there that do the funding mechanism differently. Hobart's one of them, where they, you know, but that's a much bigger, you know, conversation about, you know, how the entire community wants to fund utility projects, right? When it comes to, you know, what we're doing, you know, from a code standpoint, that, you know, we really can't adjust what we're doing with the code, right? I mean, there's some communities that look at stuff less than we do. That's just the fact of the matter, but
To Gary's point, I mean, it is the sidewalk, it's the curb and gutter. I mean, those are the 2 big ones we usually get the pushback on. You know, I mean,
I just referencing that's.
Yeah,
It's
no.
something they were saying and
Yeah.
then, cause I was telling Jamie I fell asleep 3 times. I was tired Saturday when I was reading this, but it was like 56 pages or 59, whatever it was, but it's truly interesting to go through it. There's a lot of repetitive stuff in there, but they did talk about some things, how to streamline, how to make it quicker, how to keep some of the costs down. I did notice that some, like you're saying, Roman, some of the communities are offering, if you're gonna bring in 60 homes or 100 homes in here, the village or community will put the infrastructure in.
Stevens Point recently purchased a parcel of property and annexed it, and they put in everything for shovel-ready lots.
Yep.
Because Stevens Point historically over the last decade or 2 has not had very much residential growth. So that's what they chose to do to spur the residential component.
And what, Jen, am I mistaken when I say, was it TARPA funds that some of the communities were using some? Was it the TARPA funds? TARPA or the? I remember reading it, it's talked about some of them were using some of the funds. I don't know if it was the COVID stuff or maybe, I don't know.
That would have been the ARPA fund.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Our discussion has been around TIF, about TIF for affordable house.
Yeah, and that's a very valid point because they were talking about that as well, that some communities are doing that, and I didn't think you could do that, right? Or there's just a village just choosing not to do that on the residential side.
It'd have to be it'd have to be a resolution by the board to extend 1 year until allow the increment to be used towards affordable housing. So right now you can only do an extension for 1 year of increment for affordable housing. Our understanding is there's a bill in the legislature though to extend it to 3.
So walk me through that. So if you put it, you have a special TID district or TIF district.
Not a special. It would be one of our TIF districts would be.
Currently.
Would be extended a year and the increment could be put towards, of that last year of existence, the increment could be put towards affordable housing.
Where they're located, that doesn't help us much though.
You could use it any place in the village, just because it's
Oh, it doesn't
related
have
to
to
the
stay
TIF
within the
doesn't give
existing
it the boundary.
boundaries.
So then you'd wanna, obviously to get your best bang for the buck, you'd wanna pick the best creating, good dollar value creating TIF to grab the most money to help spur a development, right?
Well, you could do it on either, but one is gonna close sooner than the other likely, so.
And and it's only good for 1 year.
The
last
extension
year?
is only good for 1 year, but however you would choose to use that increment could run for a period of time, right? If it was a revolving loan fund, it could run indefinitely, but the increment, you can only take the increment from 1 year.
So if it's so let's just say one expires next year. Say it's 1 year back is when you started it, you can take all the money the tax money that would be going towards that TIF. That would accumulate over the year's time, then you could identify a subdivision or something that you would want to do for low income housing. And that could be used it doesn't have to be within that year, it could be used,
Oh, correct, yes,
it
yeah.
could be used in the future.
Yeah, you can only collect the increment from 1 year, but it could be used into perpetuity if it was a revolving loan. Yes,
That would fund potentially product, not just low income housing. That lower income bracket is actually $350,000 house. Is where that ceiling would be at.
So you could do it for $350. You don't have to follow up to the $299.
you have to the cost of housing can only be 30% of the individual's income. That's the only qualifier.
Based off
Yeah.
who's going to buy the house.
And we had that same situation, and I might have talked to you, and I'm sorry for going off on this, but I think this is really important because we do need to do something in our community. We really do. And we've talked about this years ago. Wawasa was wanting to do that, and they were gonna give us funding for putting development in. But then a certain amount of these houses within the subdivision needed to only be sold to somebody that could have 30% of their wages. So you're limited to your buyers. So if you're gonna have a realtor that you got one person interested, or you got 10, maybe 9 out of the 10 don't even qualify because it's 35% of their income. And you got one that can, and he's not interested. So you take the builders at risk to putting this development or putting these homes up as well. That's the only bad part about it, unless you're gonna do, you know. Is there a time period on that? Like when that has to be built out?
No,
So you don't build it until you have the buyer.
So I was just gonna say, you don't build it till you have it.
Yeah.
That's why I was just asking about the time frame. But I think that's important in our community right now, is try to figure out how to get more people in our area and you know, we've been talking about this for 5 years already. How do we spur some development and affordability? Because, you know, Jen, you were having troubles even getting a planning person. I mean, where do people start off when you're talking rent for $1,500 a month or a starter home for $300,000? You know, who can afford that? And most of these kids have gone to college and they got college debt on top of it. So I guess that's why they stay in your house till they're 26 now, right?
Or
Other
or
comment?
longer.
Other question? All right. You don't have any action on this item, correct? Item 9. July 2025, staff approved certified survey map and site plan. Have any? Accept the motion.
Move to acknowledge.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item 10, July 2025 building permit.
Motion to acknowledge.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
11, July Planning and Development Department Project Update Report. Jennifer?
I just have a report in there, kind of giving you an update on past projects and a few updates on some things we're working on. I guess if you have any questions. Not a lot has changed. There's quite a few items looking to come for September, October. Those are still kind of in the works, a couple subdivisions. We do have a conditional use for a garage, but it's larger than what the standards that we were talking about tonight, so that will come next month.
Any question for Jennifer?
Yeah. Jennifer, on number 12, Reedy's subdivision,
Yeah.
I thought that wasn't that. I think back in the day that was okayed because of the mounds or something needed on that.
I think he had that property for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
He's had it. Originally, when he did it, it was supposed to have sewer and water extended
Yeah.
to it. And it was larger lots, so, we have been going down to the 1 acre. He did that prior to the zoning code change and us having some different options. So the ones that off of Arrowhead Estates, that first edition out there along Ringo, those are 1 acre lots. So he would be looking to rezone down to that and they'd be on septic. He's got well and septic out there right now for the homes that are there. He's been kind of like CSMing them off.
Chris does,
Yeah.
yeah. The
So we
only-
had a discussion with
and
him about actually platting.
Yeah, I think Arrowhead Estates, we've got conventionals out there.
Yeah.
Right, so you got sand and you got your wells. Michael, I think Keith called me on this, whatever, 15, 20 years ago on this one. I don't know how much rock is in that area there, but I think the concern with Keith was he had some stuff over off of Shorey Avenue on the other side that, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
My old house was, where it's contaminated all the wells going down the hill. So he was very concerned with this as being 1 acre parcels with mound systems and the large size homes that they are putting in there. And then having a well on the same one, with contaminating the wells. So that's my only concern when I saw this, and I like Guy and Chris, they're both good guys, good people. Just concerned about, if anybody's done any drilling over there or, and it's heavy soil, it's wet. Very heavy soil. So.
I haven't heard anything on it in the last couple of months. Guy did pass away a few months ago.
he did?
Yeah, so he,
When did he pass away?
Scott said it.
Yeah, guy passed away
Was it-
6 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Oh, wow, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
It was real
so
quick.
I don't know if that's kind of holding things up.
He's got one that he's kind of under the gun. It was supposed to be occupied last week. So he's been focused on that house.
So that, the one in the subdivision?
Yeah, it's like the third lot on the east side of Anastasia. So, I just noticed there's a typo in number 11.
Yeah, Timber River,
Should be Timber
Timber
Ridge.
Ridge.
Oh, that's because I get those two confused. They need to have different names.
And
Jeez.
how was, the other question I had was, how was what's going on with Owen's project?
Oh, that'll be the other conditional use. I need to write this
I
stuff
didn't know
down.
what's it?
Storage units.
All the storage units? Yeah,
They, Friday I got new plans for they want to change out
To
the maxis to a mini. A lot, the one that they have left. So that has to come back before you guys.
the one or two,
I have to read through it more.
because isn't there 2 buildings left?
there's 2 buildings
It could
left.
be. I
The
didn't look
last
at the
building,
plans.
yeah, the last building was only gonna be one-sided, but they wanna shift it off the property line to
And it's
open up that
two-sided,
two-sided units.
yeah.
Enough room for that? Oh, they're gonna shrink it.
They're gonna, yeah, so it's gonna be up to you guys on how you want them to adjust the site plan. So, but I spoke with, the lender from Prevail Bank several times over the last couple weeks. He was just requesting updates from our end on where the municipality stood with the project. And I had issued them an actual building permit 6-8 weeks ago. So the ball's in their court as far as, you know, what progress versus lack of progress. So.
Would that be on the, you issued them for both buildings? or-
So, well, what happened was they had a building permit for the first 2 buildings. And then they had an early start permit for the next 4 buildings. Because they submitted everything to DSPS under 3 separate submittals. So they did, from an operational standpoint, they didn't know what they were actually working on, depending on what building they were on. So for an extended period of time, they went past their legal limit on the early start permits and constructed those 4 buildings without an actual permit. So that's when the stop work order got issued. And
They
then
didn't have occupancy or they weren't done with.
they didn't have a permit to start with, and then they hadn't done any inspections. So all of that's been cleared up. The original partnership has also been dissolved, so Owen is working with the new partner. Is what Dale from Prevail Bank had informed me of last week or the week before. So essentially, the lack of progress is in their court, and I think it was due to them having to sort out their business partnership.
So there's the 2 buildings that are left to the east.
Yep.
He's got permits for both of those buildings or?
Those were part of the building permit that I issued back in June
Okay.
or May. So when I lifted the stop work order. So he can finish out the rest of the project. Problem is, now he wants to change stuff.
The last,
So then he's gonna have to come back, you know, to get approval on the site plan before he can move forward with.
have you talked to him? Does he know that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they sent, he was in on the email. I just got it on Friday, so I didn't get a chance to look at it.
Yeah. No, and as far as occupancy goes, I granted them occupancy on the middle 4 buildings. Without the pavement in place, they had installed temporary ramps for passage door accessibility. So they worked real hard to get that stuff taken care of once Owen had his partnership figured out. So.
All right, anything else? Item 12, announcement and commissioner remark. Randy?
Oh,
No?
nope. So. Nothing.
All right. Item 13, next regular meeting date, Monday, September 8th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Future then agenda item or staff referral? Nothing? Accept the motion to adjourn.
Move this, adjourn.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
And it looks like I forgot